I booked Miami because I wanted to feel like someone else. Not a wife who knows the preschool drop-off line by the crack in the sidewalk, not a 34-year-old who checks the weather app before picking a dress, not the woman who lays out dinosaur pajamas next to a humidifier and calls it a plan. I wanted neon and breeze and the low hum of a lobby bar at midnight. I wanted to be looked at like possibility again. When my college friend bailed on our long-overdue girls' weekend, I could have canceled. I could have eaten the change fees and stayed home, made pancakes, been sensible. Instead, I texted our babysitter. Kayla is 22, a senior at the university, all legs and laughter, and the kind of skin that forgives tequila. She's watched our son, Theo, on date nights, and on the 2 Saturdays, I thought my marriage needed me to be fun without actually being fun. She is good at blocks and bubbles and getting yogurt stains out of tiny t-shirts. She posts videos where the sun always seems to be behind her hair. Crazy question, I typed. Do you want a free trip to Miami? My friend backed out. I need another girl. No pressure. She replied in under a minute. OMG, yes? Is this real? Then, wait, what about Mr. A and Theo? I stared at that line longer than the others. Armin's got Theo, I wrote. Boys' weekend. This would just be girl time. I didn't write, I need a buffer, or I like the way people look at me when you're next to me, or I can borrow your shine. I didn't write girl time in quotes. I didn't tell Armin. I told him my coworker Alicia's work retreat had moved up a week, and there was a spare bed at the hotel, if I wanted a few days. He looked at me over his coffee mug with the same careful attention he gives to the IKEA instructions I pretend I'm too interesting to follow.
Go, he said.
Have fun. Send me ocean pictures.
He meant it.
He trusts me. I pressed a kiss to his cheek and it tasted like toothpaste and good intentions. Miami was exactly what I wanted it to be. The hotel smelled like expensive sunscreen and citrus. The pool was full of girls who looked like Kayla and women who wanted to. We took photos on the balcony. The kind you can pretend are candid if you stand just right. We ordered ceviche and a dessert with espresso poured over ice cream. We danced until the DJ went lazy and the floor got sticky. I took shots I have no business taking at 34 and laughed at nothing. There were lines I refused to cross in my head. No men.
No disappearing acts.
No, lost my phone, whoops, chaos. I told myself I was responsible because Armin had Theo, and I texted pictures of the beach every morning like a woman who had earned it. What I didn't count on were the notifications. We share the Amex for points, which means flight confirmations and hotel folios hit both our inboxes. I told myself he would notice because his email is a river he steps into with filters and rules. Our airline also pushes trip updates to the shared calendar. I told myself he wouldn't look because he hates that app. And then there were the stories. I don't follow Kayla, but half the city seems to. She posted from the pool, from the lobby, from the neon-lit sign outside the club. Nothing filthy. Nothing illegal. But the algorithm is a gossip. It ferries pretty things to people who didn't ask to see them. A mutual saw, tapped, sent. That's all it takes. Saturday night we came back to the room with bare feet in our hands and makeup soft at the edges, and Kayla flopped onto the bed with a groan that made me feel briefly, recklessly 22. When I'm your age, she said, I hope I still have this energy. I laughed like it wasn't a knife. At my age, I said, you'll have better shoes. She fell asleep with the TV on. I stood at the sliding door and looked at the ocean that was black and patient and thought about my husband in our kitchen cutting strawberries for Theo because he always has them the same way, and about Theo asking for Mama Airplane because Armin told him where I was. My stomach twisted, then smoothed, the way guilt sometimes does when you let the air out of it on purpose. I went to sleep. Sunday afternoon, right as we were boarding, a text lit my phone. Please call me when you land. We need to talk in person.
A.
There were 10 years between each letter. I typed everything okay?
How's Theo?
And watched my bubble stay blue and unanswered. At baggage claim, a woman in a tidy bun stepped into my path. Are you Nina Aurora? She asked. You've been served. She handed me a thick envelope and walked away before I could gather my face back onto my skull. I sat on a bench next to a family arguing in two languages about a car seat and opened my life folding itself into paper. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Motion for temporary orders, exclusive use of marital residence, temporary parenting plan, temporary financial restraints. Notice of hearing. There is a clinical neatness to legal forms that makes your drama feel like a badly acted play. Armin's lawyer had typed my name correctly and spelled our son's name with the H the way I like and listed our address like a dare. He was asking for a standard 50-50 parenting schedule for now, for exclusive use of the house while the parties figured out a plan, for temporary orders prohibiting either of us from using joint funds for non-necessary expenses. There was a line item I felt burn my cheeks: alleged dissipation of marital assets, related to an unauthorized recreational trip by respondent and the party's paid childcare provider. I had never seen paid childcare provider look so ugly. I wanted to throw my phone into the carousel and watch it make circles. I called Armin. Voicemail after one ring. I texted, "What is this? We can talk."
Please.
He replied 2 hours later, one line, email only. Logistics. Counsel copied. At home, the house looked the same and sounded different. Theo's dinosaur pajamas were folded in a neat stack on the couch. There was a list on the whiteboard. Monday. Pediatrician 3:30. Bring forms. Armin had moved our framed photo off the mantel. Not shattered it, not face down in a melodramatic pile. Just gone. The space looked like a missing tooth. An email hit my inbox at 8:04 p.m. Subject: interim plan/house/Theo. He had CC'd his lawyer. He had not CC'd Kayla because she isn't a character in his story, not directly, and because Armin handles things with a steadiness that makes you look foolish if you try to spin. I'll be staying at the house with Theo this week, so he has his routine. You can stay at your sister's. If you need to retrieve items, propose a window by email and I'll step out with Theo. Civil standby not necessary unless you prefer. We have a hearing date for temporary orders on the 18th. My counsel can propose a week-on/week-off schedule or 2-2-3 format pending final plan. I'm not seeking to restrict your parenting time. I'm seeking stability for him. Please do not contact our childcare providers. I've asked my parents to help this week. Regarding finances, I've asked for a temporary restraint on non-essential joint spending. My counsel can propose a neutral account for household expenses until we separate accounts formally. I'm not going to discuss fault. We live in a no-fault state. I am, however, going to address dissipation with documentation so the court can make an equitable decision about reimbursement. Going forward, email only, lawyers copied where appropriate. Theo is the priority. I read it twice, then a third time.
No insults. No caps lock.
No, how could you? Just a rail set down, parallel to the one I'd been running on with my head turned toward nothing. I went to my sister's. She handed me a glass of water and permission to cry for exactly 1 hour and then said, "Okay. Now you call a lawyer." I didn't want a lawyer. I wanted the version of Armin who kisses me on the forehead and says, "We'll figure it out." But you don't get to decide how someone leaves you when you're the one who opened the door with a lie. Kayla texted from a number I had never saved in my phone because I like to pretend compartmentalizing isn't arrogance. MS. Aurora, I am so sorry I didn't know. I deleted the message and put my phone face down. I didn't fire her. Armin had already done that by asking her not to return. He paid her the week's wage with a note through Venmo that said simply, "Thank you for your help. We won't need you going forward."
No threats. No moral.
Just boundary. My lawyer is a woman who looks like she has a closet full of navy dresses and unshakable patience. First, she said after I explained, this is survivable. Second, stop texting him. He's serious about email only, and the judge will like that. Third, the dissipation claim. He'll need to show receipts and timing to argue that you spent marital funds for a non-marital purpose.
You did.
It's not the apocalypse, it's math. You'll likely reimburse half or all of it in the property division. Fourth, custody. The court will look at best interests. One trip to Miami with poor judgment and a white lie about who you traveled with will not, by itself, make you a bad parent in the court's eyes. But don't make it a pattern. I wanted her to tell me I was a monster so I could aim my feelings at a conclusion. Instead, she told me to make a calendar for Theo's week, show up to pediatrician visits, stop complaining about Armin's parents hovering, and to bring my own evidence of being the parent I claim to be. Judges love routines, she said. And courtesy. I did not sleep much. The Ring camera recorded me standing on my sister's porch staring at my own shoes. In the morning, I emailed Armin. I'll come by tomorrow 12 to 2 for clothes and Theo's art box. If you'd prefer a different window, send 2 options. He replied with timestamps like a train schedule. He put my things in boxes labeled with painter's tape in his neat hand. Closet. Nina, bathroom. Nina, kitchen. Baking. He'd left a small stack of Theo's drawings on top. The one with our 3 stick figures had our heads floating like balloons. I stood in the hallway and practiced not turning into water. The day of the hearing, we sat on benches in a hallway that smelled like paper and coffee. Armin wore a navy suit I bought him when he got his promotion. He looked like himself. He nodded hello and then looked back down at a folder. We went in, and the judge approved the standard temporary schedule and the spending restraint and the don't badmouth each other clause judges recite like a prayer.
No fireworks.
No, how dare you? Just orders and signatures, and a very clear calendar. If you need to keep score. If your brain can't help itself. He wins. Not because he slammed doors or made speeches. Because he refused to turn our marriage into content. Because he prioritized Theo's sleep over my feelings. Because he asked a court for boring relief instead of writing me a sonnet about betrayal at 2 a.m. He wins by living in the rules that keep children sane and houses unburned. People asked me why I took our babysitter to Miami. The honest answer is uglier than the headline. I wanted to feel young with someone whose youth reflected on me. I wanted a wingwoman in a world that over-awards wings. I wanted to be the sun in pictures without being the one building the roof at home. And most of all, I didn't want to ask my husband for what I really wanted. A weekend where I was only Nina and not mom, wife, planner, cook, where someone else handled bedtime and bills and batteries. I could have asked. He would have said yes. He did say yes. To me going to him managing. I just added a lie to my suitcase. Kayla sent one more message. I'm really sorry. I never wanted to cause problems. I wrote back, you didn't.
I did.
It wasn't generosity. It was the only sentence that felt adult. A month in, the calendar works. Theo runs to the door at both houses. He sleeps. He sings the dinosaur song. He doesn't know the word dissolution. He knows that mama brings the blue cup and dad cuts strawberries the way he likes. Armin and I email like business partners who are very sure we're trying to ship the same product, a child who doesn't have to be the hero in our story. Do I want him back? I want the life we had when I wasn't checking my reflection in every glass. That life required me to be brave enough to say, I need to feel wanted and also safe. It required me not to put a 22-year-old between me and my fear like a human shield. It required me to keep my vows when the light got unflattering. He filed because he believed me when I showed him who I was that weekend. He didn't slam. He didn't smear. He didn't set me on fire so he could stay warm. He just picked up the paperwork and a pen and went to the courthouse like a man who understands that quiet is not weakness, it's a decision. I used to think winning was getting the last word. Sometimes it's emailing the pediatrician forms on time and answering, what week is it? Without drama. Sometimes it's looking a judge in the eye and choosing boring, again and again. I will tell Theo someday that his dad is a good man. I will tell him his mother forgot, for a weekend, to be one. I will tell him we made a schedule instead of a mess. And I will show him pictures of a beach that is just a beach, and of strawberries cut the exact same way, and of a little boy who never noticed which house smelled like sunscreen. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. She called it a girls' trip, but she took their 22-year-old babysitter to Miami and lied. He didn't scream. He went to court and protected their kid. Sometimes boring is the bravest choice. If you like this video, please subscribe for more. Thanks, and see y'all tomorrow.